I know what you're thinking. Books, movies, and TV shows, they're totally different mediums. How are you going to rank them? That doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm going to do it anyways. Hello, this is my channel. I do what I want. I do what I want.
There's no romance. What's the point? Just kidding. Maybe.
Darling,
Yo, it's Anne, aka Antagonist. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all things books, movie, and TV with an emphasis on romance. Today, I'm going to be ranking every single thing I read, binged, or watched in 2024. I've been in a slump in 2024. I did not even consume that much stuff. Like, you would think comparing all of the books, movies, and TV that I consumed in 2024 would be too much, but it's actually not that hard because looking at my stats, like I only watched 20 TV shows, 19 movies, and 16 books. 16 books. Pathetic. It's pathetic. We're just gonna lump them all together and rank them. I will be ranking everything in terms of my enjoyment. The absolute lowest ranking that something I consumed this year could have is worst, as in these things actually kept me up at night with anger and annoyance that I have consumed them. Then the next tier is mid, as in it's just like whatever, I'm going to forget about it right after I film this video most likely. Then we have which is based off the Brittany Broski meme. And it's just the idea of like, it's not that good. There are some problematic things and real issues that I have with the book or movie or TV show, but there was something still pretty redeeming about it that made me enjoy it. Then we have good, as in quality. Like, I factually believe that these things are good, well done. It's just a fact. And then the last category is best, as in they're so good that I feel the need to say thank you to the person that created it. Thank you. Thank you. Coming in at number 53, the absolute worst thing to happen to me this year is The Ultimatum Season 3, which I did not finish. It's like when you know you shouldn't stoop to the pits of hell, but you do anyways, and then you only have yourself to blame. You only have yourself to blame. The Ultimatum is another questionable Netflix reality dating show, except in this one, they're not even pretending they want people to find love. Essentially, they find couples who are in peril or at a crossroads of if they should get married or not, and they break these couples up so that they can date other people within the cast to see if they really mess with their original partners like that. Fundamentally, everything about this show is the antithesis of what I believe in. I watched the first 2 seasons and I told myself, like, enough is enough. I need to let this go. But 2024, now looking back at 2024, she was kind of a mess. Like, whoa, wait a minute. There were a lot of low points. And this was one of the low points. I told myself, I'm not going to watch this show, but I turned it on and I regretted it so much. Yes, I only have myself to blame because I knew what would happen, but I'm still going to blame Netflix a little bit because they essentially served us a tax write-off and claimed it was a show. It was hot garbage and not even entertaining hot garbage, if you ask me, because half the couples ditched the show. Half the couples committed disappearing act on this show. If we can't even get people to commit to the whole thing, why are we publishing the episode? Because this was not television. Like, you cannot present this and act like it's real. No. Another terrible thing I consumed this year was How to Fall in Love with Billy Walsh. It's an Amazon Prime teen rom-com about 2 childhood best friends, Archie and Amelia. And Archie has harbored secret romantic feelings for Amelia since forever. But just as he's building up the courage to tell her, a transfer student named Billy Walsh catches her attention. This was an insult to my intelligence. It was not funny. It was not cute. It had 0 redeeming qualities. 0. Spoiler alert, Archie spends the entire film lying and sabotaging Amelia's love life in the name of being the right guy for her, and he's rewarded for it. We've learned nothing in 2024. Nothing. Friends to lovers cannot afford this kind of negative PR. And Charitha Chandran plays Amelia. Please, girl, do not let this be your downfall. Do not. I will forgive this. I will erase this from my mind because you're better than this. You're so much better than this. Next, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. This was Netflix live action adaptation of the original Nickelodeon series, aka one of my favorite shows of all time. To say this was disappointing is an understatement. I didn't even finish it. I watched 3 episodes and then I was done. Frankly, I was bored. That's not what I expected. Just as a TV show, barring the fact that they're attempting to adapt one of the greatest shows of all time, this was just not fun to watch. It was just not entertaining. I feel like the adaptation took out all the fun and the interesting personalities of the characters, especially Katara. From what I read, it doesn't really get better as you go on in the episodes. So I just felt like I need to cut my losses now. Like, I need to put me first. And to round things off in this bottom tier, I have the only book in the category, which is The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. So the book blurb for this is: two former high school sweethearts get a second chance in this marriage of convenience romance. Lies. Lies.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
The cover and the description is clickbait. It's a lie. We spend a paragraph in Vegas, then skip to the couple waking up, seeing rings on their fingers, and immediately 2 seconds later, we find out that they actually didn't get married. Not only does the shenanigans and the hookup happen off page in Vegas, the stakes with the wedding is not even real. What are we doing here? Why are we in Vegas? What's the point? And why do you have this beautiful cover to waste? Why have we broken all possible tension and all fun? So you've already started the book off on the wrong note. But even continuing on with this, the book does everything wrong with second chance romance. It takes no effort or time to build the chemistry between the characters and relies on the fact that they dated back in high school as a reason for why they should be together now as grown adults. Be serious. Be serious. Moving into the mid category, we have Players. This is an original Netflix rom-com. This movie is about a sports journalist named Mac. So she and her friends for years have been making gameplays to have successful hookups. So essentially they'll like wingman each other. Mac unexpectedly falls for one of her gameplay hookup people, and she learns that she has to try to, instead of simply scoring, she's playing for keeps. I did not come up with that. Damon Wayans Jr., aka Coach from New Girl, is in it, but even he could not save the film. This movie is about a group of friends, but all the side characters are terribly uninteresting and borderline annoying. I didn't really buy Gina Rodriguez's character either, and it just felt a little bit uninspired and phoned in. Next, we have The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. So this book is about a romance author who gets roped in to do a bachelorette-style reality dating show, but she ends up starting a romance with her producer. The premise was more interesting than the actual story, and the third act conflict makes me want to stay single. Then we have The Housemaid. So the premise of this book is about a girl who has a troubled past with substance abuse and criminal activity, and she manages to snag a job as a housemaid at the mansion of a prestigious family, but there's some strange stuff going on, and everything at the house is not as it seems. So that's the premise to The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, which is being turned into a movie starring Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried. But this is also the premise to The Housemaid by Sarah A. Denzel, which is the book that I read. I read the wrong book, guys. I was trying to read the Frida McFadden one. My friend kept recommending it to me, and I was like, all right, let me get to it. Read the book, went to discuss it with her, and that's when I realized I read the wrong book. That's like my 2024 in a nutshell. I don't know how else to explain it. And I definitely paid the price for picking up the wrong book because I did not enjoy this. I think the difficult thing about a thriller or a mystery is the ending does have to justify the means. And it has a serious impact on my enjoyment. Because I find with thrillers and mysteries, you're motivated by getting to the end to find out what the whole twist is, the big idea. And this just landed flat for me. I was mostly motivated by the word of mouth from my friend that the book had such an interesting twist. And it might, but we were talking about a different book. So here's to hoping the other Housemaid is better. Sorry. Next on my list is The Wedding People. So this is a book about a 40-ish-year-old professor named Phoebe, freshly divorced and coming down from that. So she decides to treat herself to a special vacation at a hotel. And at that hotel, there's a week-long wedding happening. And the bride made sure to book all the rooms for her guests. But Phoebe managed to slip through the cracks. And at first, that does very much annoy the bride. But the two of them end up forming an unlikely friendship. And essentially you follow Phoebe as she interacts with the various personalities of the wedding people and the guests, and we see the impact she has on them and the impact they have on her. So the book starts with an interesting premise. It will be triggering to some people, but it was fine for me. But as I read on, that premise felt more like a gimmick or something for shock factor rather than something that the book wanted to address and explore authentically. The book deals with mental health, specifically the deterioration of our female main character's mental health, but it completely glosses over the rehabilitation of our character's mental being in favor of romantic drama. It felt like the book was stretching itself too thin, and it couldn't decide if it was a romance book or a true literary fiction character study type of book, and in my opinion, it did neither successfully. Then we have Even If the Sky is Falling, which was edited by Taj McCoy. This is an anthology series, and essentially the premise is there is an international warning siren that accidentally goes off, which makes everyone in that vicinity, I think it's Texas, believe that a meteor shower is about to cause the end of the world. So we follow 6 couples. Some of them are friends, exes, crushes, and rivals as they take shelter. And obviously it's the end of the world, so people are making confessions, talking about their feelings and whatnot. I only really enjoyed 2 stories in this anthology, 3 if I stretch it, but the 2 that I enjoyed were by Farah Heron and Lane Clark, so I've made a note to check out more of their books. But other than that, this was just an okay read. Then we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. So this book is about 2 childhood best friends who used to be a thing back in the day, but they drifted apart after they were 16, and now they've reconnected as adults, and we're flipping from the past to present timelines to find out what caused them to drift apart. First reading this book, the chemistry was chemistrying, the flow was flowing, and then the third act came. I feel like Christina Lauren, I don't know what's going on with their third act conflicts, because in this book, it's definitely the worst one I've read of theirs. It's questionable at best in terms of the third act and sinister at worst. A lot of people are enraged by the way that the subject matter of the third act conflict was handled. I totally understand. And I would be with them 100% in the anger, and I would be fuming if it wasn't written in a way that I could not even take seriously. Like, I couldn't even bring myself to take it seriously to be fuming. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. Like, what? Christina Lauren and their third acts, like, get that checked. It's weird. Next, we have Sweethearts, which is an HBO Max original film. It follows 2 college freshmen who make a pact to break up with their high school sweethearts over Thanksgiving break. There were definitely some funny moments in this film, but overall, they fumbled the ending so hard to the point that I've disassociated. Like, I pretend it didn't happen. I just hate, it's like my number 1 pet peeve, when films try to be different by subverting a trope or having like a shocking ending. But when you think about it, the ending in itself is meaningless without the subversion. Like, if it weren't for the shock factor, it doesn't actually have any impact or bearings on the narrative. It's just there to be shocking. You've completely killed both the narrative theme and also the rewatch value, because now I know how it ends and I'm like, oh, so everything didn't matter. Like, this movie thought it was really saying something, but it ended up saying nothing because the film didn't do the groundwork to deserve that ending, if that makes sense. The characters weren't established nearly enough to justify the theme they were going for. Next, we have Dr. Slump, which is a Netflix K-drama about 2 burnt-out doctors who used to be rivals back in school, but they run into each other again in adulthood during the lowest points of both of their lives, and their reunion sparks complicated feelings. I was having fun with the show throughout the first half, but the second half drags on so much. It was really hard for me to get through. I don't know, I think when it comes to Rivals to Lovers, I've learned that I maybe don't really care about seeing the couple together that much. I know that sounds bad, but I just feel like a lot of the time they lose their banter and the fire that they had before they become lovers, and it usually peppers out, and that's the same case with Dr. Slump here. So I don't know, I feel like you kind of need to drag the tension out when it comes to Rivals to Lovers and keep it that way up until the end. Speaking of Rivals to Lovers, we have Candy Jar, which is a Netflix original teen rom-com. This was a rewatch for me for a video I'm making. about Rivals to Lovers. Same thing with Dr. Slump. I'm still debating if I'm actually going to go through with it because it's taking so long to edit. I feel like I should just put it out there, but it's long. She's long. Anyways, this is about two high school rivals who are on the same debate team and they can't agree on anything. This is categorized as a rom-com, but I would consider it more of a coming of age. It has a lot more of that narrative style. The film is fine, but I think the characters could have been more interesting, especially now that I've rewatched it. I really remember why I haven't rewatched it as much or why I don't remember too much about it, because the characters are not nearly as interesting as I think they could be. But I do think it's a cool concept and the film has a lot of redeeming qualities. It's just not for me. Next is The Kiss Countdown. It's a fake dating romance between an event planner and an astronaut. This whole book had no plot. It was all vibes. It felt like we were doing nothing the whole time. But I like the representation and there were some cute moments. But overall, it's just whatever. Next, we have Love Island UK. Love Island is a show, if you don't know, where they put a bunch of singles on an island and they test their relationship by bringing in increasingly hotter people to the island. So that's basically the premise. Not much to say on this. It was the inferior Love Island season this year. So much of the drama felt overly manufactured. Also, I needed the black girl specifically to be less weak in the knees this season. Like, especially when you compare and juxtapose it to the other Love Island season that's going to be on the list. It just couldn't be my cup of tea because the other girls were standing on business, and that was not the case for Love Island UK's. Next, we have Love is Blind UK. Love is Blind, which was originally a US show, is where people get engaged sight unseen, but this time it's in the UK. At this point, I think I just like hearing British people talk because I didn't actually like any of the characters on the show. I barely remember them, but it was entertaining at the time and it was something to watch. Next, we have Nobody Wants This, which is a Netflix original romantic comedy show about a sex podcaster and a rabbi starting a relationship. The show was fine. I couldn't buy into the couple fully because when it came to their serious compatibility issues, the show kept giving them convenient ways out rather than actually addressing it authentically. And then the ending, spoiler alert, really had me rolling my eyes because giving up your career aspirations for a girl that you met 3 months ago is stupid. I'm so sorry. It is. It just is. Also, the way they represented Jewish women in the show was sus, to say the least. I mean, they ended up being my faves, but it definitely lacked nuance. I'm going to link an article down below to kind of explain what I mean. I don't want to speak for Jewish women, but when I was watching it, I felt like as a black woman, I am used to seeing a lot of shows where a black man is with a non-black woman, and a lot of the black women in the vicinity or the surroundings tend to be flattened and just shown as caricatures of stereotypes. And it felt like the same thing was happening here in this show. And it kind of was like a dog whistle to me because I've seen that done a lot with black women in shows. So it felt familiar to me in that sense, and I didn't love that. It felt like the women were just there to oppose the protagonist rather than being like real characters. And after learning that the creator is basically Kristen Bell's character, and she isn't originally from the Jewish culture or religion, I think she should be a little bit more responsible with her portrayal. Then we have Percy Jackson. This was the live action adaptation by Disney Plus of the Percy Jackson book series by Rick Riordan, which I read them as a child. I was a huge fan. Even went to the book signing. I was very serious. The performances on the show were great. Everything else was not. The writing choices ensured that at every opportunity, they killed all the tension, all the suspension, and all the fun and intrigue. Like, we were told everything before it happened. Why? Why? What happened to Show Don't Tell? What happened to Show Don't Tell? The editing on the show was really strange as well. There were so many lingering shots, and I was so confused because I'm like, isn't this a kid's show? I remember this scene where Percy's making a joke with Annabeth, and they linger on his shot rather than cutting right to Annabeth's reaction. By lingering on his face after the joke, you're making it awkward. You're making it seem like it's supposed to be an awkward, bad joke. If you're trying to tell us that it's funny, quickly move. I don't even know how to explain this. Like, I hope I'm making sense, but I just didn't understand what was going on. I think they need a pivot. They need a pivot and remember that this is supposed to be a kid's show at the end of the day. Please go back to the drawing board. I have faith. You guys are higher up based on the goodwill of these kiddos, and the fact that I'm a Percy Jackson fan, but I'm gonna need y'all to come correct next season because I can't support this. I can't support this. Next, we have Bridgerton season 3. We were following Colin and Penelope's love story. Their main tropes are friends to lovers and the love coach trope, where one character teaches the other about dating and like how to attract a mate, if you will. This is earning its spot based off the good name and cushion of the other Bridgerton seasons and its spin-offs. But if you remove that, I don't think I would have finished the season. I'm being so serious with you guys. I did a whole deep dive review on my channel. Essentially, a lot of the writing choices didn't make sense to me. Colin lacked a lot of depth as a character and his motives were scattered, even though they were right there presented on a silver platter. Like, they had so much ammunition based off the previous seasons, but it felt like they didn't want to actually explore them properly. The emotional payoffs they were going for felt shallow and unearned because they didn't give the time for things to really fester and breathe. And the romance felt secondary to everything, which doesn't work on a show like Bridgerton, if you ask me. And the production, abysmal. I talk about that in the video. I don't need to go over that again. This is the first Bridgerton season or show that I haven't liked. So the show has done me well overall. And this was just a big letdown, but I'm ready to move on. And I hope that the next season will bring back the magic and the obsession that I usually have when Bridgerton comes out. Because, like, it makes me sad that I don't care about that past season. Next, we have Outer Banks season 4. All I could do is laugh. This is a Netflix original series about a group of teens who get into treasure hunting shenanigans. This season, Pope and Cleo alone are carrying this rating because otherwise, this was such an unserious season. It was just so unserious. Things barely made sense. Tell me how a season can have a surprise pregnancy, homelessness, murder, fake murder, real murder, I am not the father, but I am your mother. What? Killings, people assaulting police officers and seeing the light of day. Just unseriousness. What are we doing? What are we doing? Everything didn't make sense. And the villain was laughable. He was like a less interesting, less charismatic version of Ward. Like, I miss Ward. Bring him back from the dead at this point. I don't want that. Don't do that. But it's just like, y'all really fed me slops this season. And I can tell you don't respect me. But I will be back because I just like these characters. But like, I have no words for season 4. Then we have Anyone But You, which is a rom-com starring Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I actually did an entire video reviewing this film. It's loosely, emphasis on loosely, based on the Shakespeare play Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah, this was not good. This was not a good film. I'm so glad it got box office success because I'm always pro a rom-com renaissance. Always cheering on rom-coms to do well because I want more of them. But y'all people who love this film are deprived. You're just deprived because you haven't seen a rom-com in years and you're just thirsty. That's what I'm convinced. Like, if you watch rom-coms, you can't be obsessed with this because, like, y'all aren't in the trenches like me because this movie was not good. It was not good. I'm so sorry. Glenn Powell is the rom-com king, and this didn't tip his crown, but the script tried real hard to do it. They tried real hard to tip that crown. Sydney Sweeney, baby, I'm so sorry. She has zero charm to me. Zero. I think she's such a great dramatic actress, but when it comes to laid-back, charismatic roles like this, no thank you. No thank you. She just doesn't have the sauce. But with the massive success that it had, I am a little scared that they're going to continue to make rom-coms exactly like this. That's my fear. I hope they, do a little something different in the next one. Also, the only other bad thing about this film being so successful, it's going to be years, dare I say eons, until we get the opportunity to get an actually good modern adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing. And that's the real crime here. Next, we have My Lady Jane, which is a Amazon Prime original TV show. It's a period romantic-y type of show, and it had a lot of potential. Even if I wasn't feeling the main love interest whatsoever, and the insta-love / attraction vibes they had at first sight gave me the ick, they were starting to get better as I was watching the episodes. I did not finish this show. I was halfway through. I found out that it got canceled. I still think I'm gonna finish the show just to finish it. And also, I saw that the main actress got cast as Poppy from People We Meet on Vacation, Emily Henry's book. I think she's gonna be great. So I'm actually super excited to see that. So there's some sunshine at the end of the road. Then we have The Idea of You, which was a Amazon Prime original romance. This is One Direction fanfiction that was published into a book and then turned into a movie. Essentially a hot single mom, played by Anne Hathaway, and a Harry Styles dupe, played by Nicholas Galitzine, have a romance. They had great chemistry. Great chemistry. The weakest part of this movie, though, is its dialogue. It's really holding us back. It really is. There was a scene where they were fighting and Harry Styles' dupe goes, "It feels like you never gave us a chance, like you're ashamed of me." And he just stops there and she goes, "I am ashamed." Who talks like that? Like, who fights like that? What? What? Like, what happened to tension? What happened to fire? Like, why isn't he going, "Feels like you never gave us a chance. Like, it feels like you're ashamed of me." And she goes, "I am." And he goes, just like other instances like that, very small, but it just like made it seem less real and more like fantasy like, which might have been their intention, but I just found it strange. So, but Anne Hathaway, mama, you are so pretty, mama. And I had a good time. Next, we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So this book is about two doctors who are kind of rivals, kind of not. But they essentially get off on the wrong foot. But then they start a correspondence via letters and get to know each other better. I thought the characters dealt with their traumas and past relationship issues really well. But I wasn't in love with either of the characters. Like, they were kind of forgettable to me. And I really disliked the third act. It felt like the third act conflict was happening because there needed to be a third act conflict rather than something that was organic. Then we have The Bear season 3. So The Bear is a FX show, Hulu original. It's a TV show about cooking, okay? I liked season 1 and I loved season 2, but this season was very slow and not my cup of tea. It felt like the weakest parts of season 2 specifically were the areas of focus in season 3. Like, they took everything that wasn't my favorite in season 2 and amplified it in season 3. And the redeemable aspects were gone. So that's not fun. Like, I feel like the grit and the chaos of season 1 and 2 and the characters and the grief of where Mikey being gone was like the core of season 1 and 2, and it felt like in season 3 that wasn't really the heart of it anymore. There were some standout episodes for sure. Like, it's not a bad show by any means, but overall the season left a lot to be desired for me. Then we have Sex Lives of College Girls. So I know this is ongoing, but these are my thoughts or feelings about the show and where I would rank it based on the first 5 episodes, which I have seen as of recording this, or Parents Weekend 2.0, which was definitely the strongest episode of the season so far. That being said, this season, it's not my favorite, and that is not because of Leighton's absence. I just find that the writing itself is clunky, and we have yet to have a strong storyline halfway through the season at this point. It feels like every opportunity they've had to really develop like a long form arc for any characters throughout the season has been cut short. First of all, Whitney and Kimberly's riff. We ended that immediately in season 1. And I don't really necessarily have a problem with that, but then we completely undid everything that was done because of those actions. Like, Whitney being able to leave the sorority immediately and move back in with the girls, I found was not that interesting. I think they should have kept her at the sorority for another episode or 2, and then they end up trying to figure out how to get Whitney out of the sorority. That could have been a whole episode. That would have been so much fun about like how to get Whitney out of the sorority. That there was so much gold and potential there. Often like there's a lot of race issues or class issues that happen in the sororities, and I think that could have been an interesting thing to explore with Whitney. I don't know. I feel like specifically I'm thinking of season 1, there was an interesting plot point that we were following already. Leighton with the women's center and her sexuality. We had Kimberly dealing with academics, Bella dealing with all the sexual harassment and with the comedy magazine. That was like such interesting, compelling storylines to follow, and it feels like we have none of that this season yet. And I also find that in this season there's not a single couple to root for, and I get that this is college and that it's about the sex lives of college girls, but I still think we need something to root for at the end of the day. Season 1 and 2 showed that potential. We had that with reoccurring characters like Eric or Kanan or Alicia, like people that we wanted characters to end up with, or maybe not, but it was just something longer form to invest in. Versus it feels like now every character that pops up is going to pop up for an episode or two and then completely disappear, rather than being a at least like season to 2 season long character. Bella's new romance, I do think it's cute, but I just don't trust that it's gonna last more than a few episodes as well. I just don't really see where they're going with things, and I'm a little bit worried. So far, this is the least engaged I've been with the sex life of college girls. Maybe season threes are just not it for me. Like, I don't like them. Now we're moving into the no, well category. We have Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is a rom-com book about our female main character whose fiance leaves her for his childhood best friend, and she ends up having to live with the ex of the woman who took her man. So the two dumpies now live together, and their exes invite them to their wedding. So they decide to pretend to be in a relationship to mess with their exes. The beginning of this book is gold. Like, the first 50 pages are a 5-star book in itself. I truly believe that. But the story quickly forgets its own premise. They barely interact with their exes. We don't even see them at a wedding, no bridal shower, not a single engagement, dinner, party, rehearsal, just nothing. Nothing. Which means that for the rest of the 150 pages of the book, we're just waffling. Like, we're spinning on wheels, pretending that there are stakes and things that are happening, but there's nothing's happening. Nothing's actually happening. It's only so high up on this list because of the first 50 pages and because I really like Emily Henry. I think she's a really talented author and she's great at writing banter and chemistry between characters, but I don't know, in terms of plot, it's just, I haven't loved one of her books since Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, but I hope that soon I'll have that same fire and spark that I had with her other books. Next, we have American Fiction. This is a movie about a washed up Black author who wants to write about his experience as an upper middle class Black man, but is not finding any success. His books are not selling. So he satirically writes a stereotypically Black book under a pseudonym. It's not just like him pretending to be under a different name. Like, he completely makes up that he's, you know, an ex-convict. Like, he really embellishes his identity, I guess, as the author. The book ends up getting published and it's super, super popular. And when it's about to be shortlisted for an award, which the fake author has to actually accept in person, he has to see how he can keep up with this lie/dual identity. This is a story about the hypocrisy of the main character, and the correct way to consume art and to produce it, and if there even is a correct way to do so or an ethical way to do so. I really liked the ending of this film. I think it kind of solidified things for me, but I do feel that some, if not all, the female characters in the film were very underdeveloped, which was a big shame. And I also think other questions could have been answered throughout the film that I would have appreciated. Next, we have Sidelined, the QB and Me, which is a Tubi original high school rom-com about an inspiring dancer and a player-type quarterback who have a romance. This was Tubi's attempt at a Wattpad movie. Pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. If you liked Prom Pack, you'll definitely like this movie. I think Prom Pact is a little better, but you'll still very much enjoy this film. Like, Tubi did their little one. They did. Of course, there were some corny moments, of course. Like, the fact that they made this man a bad boy, there was nothing bad about this boy. He's very nice. He was so nice. Sweet, in fact. I know they gave him a tragic backstory, but it doesn't, what? Like, like, he's just a boy. I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're like, ooh, he drives a motorcycle, he's bad. They tried really hard to make him something he clearly was not even in a clever way. Like, oh, he's misunderstood. Like, no. Like, everybody understands nothing is bad boy or brooding about him. So why are we acting like it is? Still enjoyed it. I think it was cute. Then we have Maxton Hall, which was a Amazon Prime show. It's a German romantic drama about two teens. You have your stereotypical poor good girl with a heart of gold and your rich player brooding bad boy character. It's like an enemies to lovers type beat. I know I would have ate this up as a teen. Oh my, ate this up. Gobble, gobble, gobble. This was fun. It was sweet. I had a good time. They definitely hit those cliche scenes you would find in like a Wattpad book, but I was entertained and it wasn't trying to be anything. It wasn't. Like, it knew what it was and it was good. And the characters were cute. They had good chemistry. I had a fun time. What can I say? What can I say? Next, we have Love is Blind USA Season 7. The show is a joke now. We will never be restored back to the glory of the first season, but I was highly entertained. I do hate that the show has become a cesspool for weirdos and liars, but again, I was very much entertained. Next, we have Upgraded. This is another Amazon original film. So this movie is about an intern at an art auction house who falsely claims her boss's identity after she casually lies to someone on her flight when she's upgraded to first class. And basically her lie escalates a bit too much and she's in too deep. This was such a fun film. I love when women are stuck in messy shenanigans. I just love to see it. I feel like Camilla has found her niche in the space of like chick lit and flick chicks with morally gray characters, and I'd love to see it. And Archie Renault? Yes. Next, we have Private Arrangements by Sherry Thomas. So this is a second chance romance book about an estranged married couple. For the last 10 years, Gigi, our main character, has lived her life as a widow, basically, because her and her husband reside on separate continents. But now Gigi wants to be free to marry again, so when her husband returns, he makes a very specific demand before they can get divorced. And the book switches between the past and the present timelines for us to learn what broke them apart. This was just such a good time. I read it in a day. If you don't know, on my channel, I do a Romance Trope Thursdays series, and this is research for the next trope I'll be addressing. Stay tuned, but not too tuned. It's gonna take a minute. I did find that the ending was super rushed though, and it was kind of upsetting because I was invested, and I could have done without that secondary love plot. Like, I very much skimmed those parts. Also, if you are adverse to people who are vindictive and have strange moral compasses, then maybe don't pick this up. If you put me in a world where people are doing crazy things, then I will buy into the world you've put me in. And that's what I did with this book. It was fun and I had such a good time, so it worked for me. Now we're into quality content, good, objectively. And to start things off, we have Inside Out 2. If you watched my recap, you'll know that when I first watched this film, I actually missed the first 20 minutes because of rush hour traffic. Tragic. But I've since seen it and I really enjoy it, so my rating remains the best Pixar movie in a long time. It's not nearly as good, in my opinion, as the first one, but that's because the first one is exceptional to me. So this was a worthy sequel nonetheless. And I really, really like the ending. I was remembering just how good the Inside Out films are for kids. Like, there's so many lessons in them, and it's the kind of movie that I would want to show my future kids, nieces, nephews, something like that. It just feels like there's a lot of gems in it. So very, very much enjoyed. Next, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So this is a romantasy book set in a fantastical, slightly magical renditions of the 1920s. It's about two rival journalism interns who are gunning for the same full-time position. But there's a fantastical war happening, and the female main character has a magical typewriter that she uses to send letters to her brother who's at war, thinking he's receiving them, but she soon learns that it's not her brother who's been reading or receiving them, and it's someone else. So she starts a correspondence with this perfect stranger, and I wonder who could it be. This was so cute, so adorable. I would read this book on my commute to work and literally get upset when I would have to put it down when I had to get to my station, because I just had so much fun, and I can't wait to read the sequel. So definitely looking forward to it. Next, we have Heartstopper Season 3. It was a lot darker and it dealt with heavier subject matter. And to me, that's what made it such a great season, because I felt like it handled it very, very well. To me, it's the best season since Season 1. Season 2 felt a little bit more lost in its plot, versus Season 3. It had its groove, it had the narrative it wanted to tell, and it told it really well. I also love some of the artistic and storytelling choices they made, especially in the Nick and Charlie switching POV episode. I just felt like the way they switched the POVs and the narration style was really smart and just creative. My issue with Heartstopper's soundtrack still persists. When they play a song, it's either a complete hit or miss. There's no in between. I specifically remember there was a scene where the whole squad was partying it up to celebrate Charlie, and the song that was playing was literally like, party, 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 you should party and have fun. Is that necessary? That's weird. Like, it took me out of the scene. Like, felt like I could skip it. Like, oh, thanks for telling me they're partying. What? That's so weird. Such a strange choice to me. Next, we have Challengers. Challengers follows a interesting love triangle between three pro tennis players and how their lives intertwine before and after one of them is injured, and the codependent relationships between all three of them. The film was intriguing, pacing was really good. The camera shots and the different stylistic choices that were done made me go like, oh, like this is what a director does. Like this is what a director is supposed to do. My film knowledge isn't very technical and it's hard for me to spot things like that. Like it needs to be obvious or super showy for me to understand like camera technique and work. Luca Guadagnino did a really, really good job. And Josh O'Connor to me was the star of that movie. Like I can't lie, even though I'm an art apologist. Ooh. Next, we have When the Vibe is Right by Sarah Das. So this is a YA romance book set in Trinidad during Carnival. We follow our main character who is a designer and helps her uncle out with his business. So they literally make the costumes for people who attend Carnival. And his business isn't doing so well. There's actually a competitor, their rival, that is doing a lot better than them. So our female main character has to reluctantly get the help of her enemy, who is really good at social media and has a big social media following. So she gets his help to help her uncle's business. And, you know, romance and shenanigans ensue. This book was really fun. I love that it was set in Trinidad around Carnival. Like, that alone is guaranteed 3 stars for me. Like you can't do something like that and expect me not to give it at least 3 stars, at least. But even on top of that, it was really fun. I felt like the cast of characters was really interesting. The plot was really tight and sharp. I do think I would have liked a little more time between the 2 main characters, but other than that, like this was super well written, super enjoyable. Definitely gonna get a reread from me. Next, we have Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. So this is a romance book about our female main character who finds out that her guy best friend, who she harbors secret feelings for, is getting engaged. So to comfort herself and to make him a little jealous, she fakes an engagement with an engineer whose parents were trying to set her up with him. And he agrees because he wants to get his parents off his back. It was just really fun and a great, easy read. I want to reread this to see if it holds up because I remember having such a good time and really loving it when I first read it. I just liked the characters. I had so much fun, and it came to me when I was about to get into a reading slump. I just could feel it coming, but this really lifted me up until I slumped into the next book. But that's neither here nor there. This was a very, very good book. Next, we have Love at First Sight, which is a Netflix original rom-com about 2 people who are seated next to each other on a flight from New York to London, and they fall in love during that flight, but they lose each other at customs, and they try to find their way back to each other. I had been putting off watching this movie based on the title alone because I am nothing if not a insta-love avoider, okay? To my core. Like, I flinch when I see an insta love premise. And I also hate the missed connections plot line when it comes to romance because it just frustrates me. But after a few friends strongly recommended that I watch it, I was like, all right, let me do it. And I was sobbing, screaming, crying, throwing up. This movie was so cute and so sweet. And it's very sad too, but I just can't even cope. Like the characters, I just want to give them a hug. And the movie does a great job at avoiding the pitfalls of insta love and like misconnections and subverting the annoying issues that I usually have with that type of premise. So definitely top rom-com of the year for me. Next, we have Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is an action film about a middle-aged Chinese immigrant who is swept up in quite the adventure when she is the chosen person who can save the existence of the universe by exploring other universes and connecting with the lives that she could have led in those other universes. Sobbing again. Like, it was such an absurdist and ridiculous premise and idea and film, but the incredibly human moments in the absurdity of the film is what makes it so great. I know I'm crazy late watching this, but I am nothing if not a mood consumer. If I'm not in the mood for something, I am not going to watch it. And I don't want to force myself to watch it because it will completely change the way I see the film. So Michelle Yeoh was incredible. Kwan Kwan, he ended up winning the Best Supporting Actor for that, the Oscar for that, and it's so well deserved. I think he did a phenomenal Can I speak? Can I speak? I think he did such a phenomenal job. And I can't lie though. The knowledge that Jamie Lee Curtis won the Oscar for her performance in this film did trigger me a little bit during my viewing experience. Cause I was literally like, how? Like I was waiting for the moment where it was giving Oscar, especially when the girl who plays, what's her name? Stephanie Sue was also nominated. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. Like, literally, how? Oscars, you're so unserious sometimes. I can't even deal with you. We're finally getting to the best. These are my faves. Starting off, we have Set It Up. It's a Netflix original rom-com. This is definitely a rewatch for me. One of many. It's about two assistants who team up to set up their miserable workaholic bosses together in hopes that they get more free time. This is such a comfort watch for me. It's one of my fave rom-coms. The origin for my love for Glenn Powell. I put this on when I'm bored, when I'm feeling sad. It's probably my most rewatched film on Netflix. Next, we have I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang. This is a reversed To All the Boys I've Loved Before. So it's about an overachieving and studious high school girl who has an academic rival, and she has a lot of pent up anger towards him and just other people. So what she does to let out that anger is she'll write an email draft addressed to that person that is the object of her frustration, but she'll never send it out. She just keeps it in her draft box. But then suddenly one day at school, all her drafted hate letters are sent out to everybody, and she's public enemy number one because of it. But surprisingly, her academic rival seems to be the only one who isn't completely put off by her, and he helps her try to restore her reputation and figure out what happened in the first place. This book, such a good time. Young me would have been obsessed because I'm obsessed now. I really, really loved it. I had such a good time. I feel like I had such fun. It was so lighthearted. I do think some of the other side plots could have been developed a little bit more, but I felt overall that I had such fun. I thought the premise was well done. Definitely would recommend. Then we have The Great, which is a TV series on Amazon Prime. It's like a satirical dark comedy drama adaptation of Catherine the Great and her reign in Russia, starring Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult. I love Nicholas Hoult. And I really like Elle Fanning. I love her too. This show has solidified that as well for me. It's just so well done. It's just such a good show. It's so good. It's ridiculous. Really sad to hear that it hasn't been renewed. I'm in the middle of finishing season 3, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not too sad because the seasons I've gotten, I've really, really enjoyed, and I have no complaints. Like I don't know what to say. I just feel happy that I've watched the show. Next, we have Survivor, the recent season. I don't know, season 365. Love the ending. Rachel won. That's who I wanted to win. So I'm super pleased about that. No notes. Then we have Dune Part 2, sequel to Dune. I'm not going to explain the plot because I can't. Really, really well done. I think it did so much better than its predecessor. Like, this to me is an occasion where the second film outweighs the first one, where the sequel is better. Ha ha ha. I don't have anything coherent to say. It was just a great movie. Great movie. Go watch it. Then we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which is the top book on this list. The premise of this book is about two characters who think that they are cursed. Essentially, whenever they date someone, the next person that their ex dates after them ends up being the love of their life. So they're always the one that the person dates before. So they decide to meet up and date each other because they're like, if we date each other, then the next person we'll find will be our soulmate. So that's the premise. It sounds silly, but a lot of the issues and trauma and just like character work that is done through this book is really, really interesting and really intriguing. And I just found the whole thing so sweet. The romance was sweet. I really enjoyed this book. Abby did her big one with this one. Next, we have Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Don't at me on how late I am to watching this film, but it was prestige. It was very good. So entertained. So upset that it ended. Like, I was screaming at the TV like, what? And I can't wait to see the next film. I heard it's been delayed again. Next, we have Queen Charlotte, which was the Bridgerton spinoff. Anytime I'm reminded of George and Charlotte, I'll just go back and rewatch. It's even more embarrassing because this time I was rewatching my own edit video of the show, and that inspired me to do a rewatch. So that's pathetic but hilarious but true. Love Queen Charlotte. I just think it's so romantic. Like, George and Charlotte are the love story is so romantic, and it makes me feel so sad. So sad. The love that transcends time. That amount of devotion, your girl cannot. Your girl cannot. And we have One Day, Netflix romantic drama show. And in the series, we follow the friendship between Dexter and Emma over years and years. And we follow them on the same day of July 15th from the day they met and every day after that of their relationship. I think I'm in love with the jumping through time and seeing a long, contained friendship story. When Harry Met Sally does the same thing of like following moments in people's lives throughout their friendship and seeing that, I just love like a contained, simple story and just like really analyzing characters throughout different times of their lives, but then how they still fit together despite all the different stages of their life, and maybe how they don't fit together at certain stages and then they come back together. I just think it's such a beautiful way of showcasing the passage of time. I wasn't going to watch the One Day series actually because One Day the film I had watched by accident. Oh, a cute Anne Hathaway rom-com. I can watch this, not knowing what I was in for. I thought the show added even more depth to the characters, to their relationships, their downfalls and shortcomings. Like I just thought the show did such a good job at showcasing what their lives were like with and without each other and the ways that they fit. And just I have like no notes. I really enjoyed it. And I feel like it's the kind of show that people interpret so differently. And I feel like that's what makes it so beautiful. Obviously, the ending had me weeping. Just speaking of weeping, next is Little Women. So this movie was on my watch list for time. This is Greta Gerwig's adaptation, and it's the best of Greta Gerwig. It's the best of Greta, okay? Like eons above Barbie. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's a constant longing in my heart now because of this film. I want to continue to go through her filmography. Greta Gerwig was always someone I'd heard through word of mouth about how talented she was as a director. But Barbie was my first film that I had seen of hers. And I was like, nah, this can't be what people are talking about. Like, this is not it. And I now know what people are talking about. This is the best of Greta. And I know you're being like, girl, you've only seen 2 of her films, but I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. This film had such a melancholy about growing up, and I related to Joan a bit too much. If I'm being real, I'm probably more of an Amy in terms of her practicality and like just general like demeanor about things. I'm not like her as a child because I am an eldest daughter. I could never. But the sentiments and dreams and aspirations that Joan had and her aversions to letting things go just spoke to me on another level. And when she threw away her letter to Lori in the water, like I can't. Like the symbolism of like what could have been in childhood and growing up and having to live with your consequences of your actions and your thoughts and your feelings and the decisions that you've made. I can't do this. I can't. Like, it was just so bittersweet, and it was like showcasing the bittersweetness of life. The nuance that was brought to all the experiences of the women. Amy's speech about marriage being a financial proposition and that's it and that's all that women are afforded. The way that we explored the pressures that are put on even men within the patriarchy, with Meg and her husband's relationship, like this is what I mean by women's studies. This is it. I just can't. I might weep some more if I keep talking about this, but this was just like, and the ending with the book and stop. This made my fall. Next, we're in top 2, and in second place, we have Love Island USA. Best show of the year. Best show of the year. The drama, the cast, the one-liners, you can just like never recreate TV like that. Never. Serena and Cordell, I said this before, but it felt like coming home. They provided the slow burn friends to lovers that I had been craving, that I innately have been made for. They gave me everything I needed. Like, what do you mean Cordell said to her, friends don't cuddle Serena? Excuse me? So good. I'm still obsessed, and I miss those days. I don't think they'll ever be able to make magic like that again, so I'm gonna savor it. And I'm gonna declare that Love Island USA was the show of 2024. Point blank, period. And in first place, I think y'all already know, Wicked. This movie is about two witches, and it's the best thing I've seen, heard, and consumed all year. Yes, yes. We needed to end off 2024 with a bang, and so we did. I can go up in 2025 with optimism because of Wicked. I'm gonna be defying gravity. To those who ground me, take a message back from me. I knew nothing about Wicked going in, other than the fact that it was like about the Wizard of Oz and loosely based on that. That's all I knew. But I'd never seen the Broadway musical. I didn't know the songs. And I think that absolutely aided in my experience because I was like blown away. Blown away. I have no words. I'm going to see it for the third time this week. Like, I don't think you understand the hyperfixation. I don't think you understand. Don't at me. Don't at me. I am obsessed. Like, it is what it is. And I will not apologize for it. I'm going to need that sequel right now. I'm going to need part 2 immediatamente. And soon it'll be for the rest of my life, and I'll want nothing else till I die. Held in such high esteem. When I see that movie, I will scream for half of Oz's favorite team. Wicked part 2. We need to end this video. I've been filming for way too long. I feel like it's been 3 hours. 2024, interesting year for books, movies, and TV. What are some of your faves? What's some of the worst stuff that you've consumed in 2024? Please let us know, because I can't be the only one who has suffered. Most of it was mid, I think. Like, if I look at my stats, I'll probably put it up here. I think most of the stuff was probably in the mid category. Tell me what you thought. Be nice in the comments. You guys are always nice anyways. It's not that serious. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.
Darling.